Hello, I'm back, chapter 11. Sorry guys, I've been gone for a little bit. There's been a lot going on in the world with the fires, and we had friends that lost homes. So we've been dealing with that. But I want to go right into the story because I know a lot of you listen at work or you're in your car. And at the end, I just have a little quick thing that I'm going to tell you about my podcast. But let's go right in. So we're in chapter 11. And we ended with some really bad drama. Basically, it was about my situation that happened with my ex's cousin. And I ended with that my mother basically took his side. So I never went after him because I didn't really have any support. And a lot of people today even say to me, like, you should go after the people that hurt you. No, I'm doing so much other things in the world. For the last 20 years, I have devoted my life to women. And if you know what I do for a living, then you know I'm giving back and I'm doing my part. So I'm only going to do what I feel comfortable doing. And I feel comfortable sharing my truth, but also I'm going to have to keep some of it limited. And also I'm not going to be throwing out names. It's not fair to other people. They didn't sign to be part of my story. So I'm not going to disrespect people. Yeah, my family, heck yeah. I'll tell you everything about them. Okay, so let's go back to my mom. I didn't tell you guys something that happened. So I was able to protect my little brother. Actually, I'm not going to talk about that because that's something I'm going to ask him first, and then we'll talk about it. And we don't edit this. This is raw. So we'll come back to that. So there was something I wanted to tell you about my brother, but I think we'll wait, and that way I'll get consent from him first. Okay, so after that whole situation, I came back for a very short time to live with my mom, and then I was able to get my own place. So, you guys, I'm going to tell you the funniest story about my very first apartment that I got for myself, by myself. So I stayed with my mom for a few months. It was miserable because now my mom is not with my dad, you know that. And then it was Q, mafia dad. He's in jail. And now my mom has met another guy. This guy was somebody I knew because whenever my mom and her friends and I used to be at like these cabarets or nightclubs and things, because remember, my mom took me to all of them. Afterwards, we would go to this place and eat like kebab. It was like a really cool place after 2 a.m. People would go there. Persian people really party. So we would go there, and he was this guy I really liked. He was a sweetheart, but he was a loser. Like, he was a gambler. He was thrown out of his marriage because of just being not a good person. So, of course, my mom somehow meets him, and they start dating behind my back. And I didn't even know that until one day my mom, remember when I told you guys that when I got married to this guy, if you remember, I told you he was hanging out with my mom a lot. So basically my ex-husband and my mom and all their friends, he became like their clique. So even though I left my mom's house, my mom somehow still had control over me because I didn't want to fully lose her. I mean, she's the only mom I have. So somehow she still was able to control us, like coming to these things. Like my mom would always say, like, please come over, please have dinner with us. Don't leave the family. So it took me to get married to this guy, but it actually took me a year to actually get away from her because she still tried to control me. She really did. And I still allowed her to control me because I didn't want to lose her. I'm that kid that was like hanging on to a mom hoping that she would one day love me. So I laugh now, but that's really the truth. So we did kind of associate with my mom, and then one day I caught her. I basically caught her. Now, you guys, my mom somehow has now ended up hanging out with like really bad people again. And one of the women in this group was like a leader of another gang, like really bad gangs. Like these are like Iranian gang members. They were like this lady, basically in the city that my mom's place was, and this like entire city used to pay her money because like she protected like the stores. It's like all these weird people, you guys. Like, who are these people, Mom? Q's in jail. You still want to deal with these people? Like, she doesn't know how to be with nice people. So anyway, he comes into our life, and he's not even a good person. He's a good person. He's a good person, but he's not a good husband, nor was he a good father. So I never called him dad. I basically found out about him one night because of that woman, the bad woman. She came to me and said, I know where your mom is. And so at 2 a.m, I got in the car with her. I couldn't find my mom for 3 days. I get in the car with her, and she took me to the guy's place and told me exactly which apartment it was. And I was knocking on the window, and he popped his head, and I looked, and it's the guy from the restaurant. And I was just in a state of shock. And then I saw my mom, and then she came out, and she goes, I know I didn't want to tell you I'm dating him, which, hey, I would have been fine with. But do you get it? Like, another lie. He was actually a pretty nice guy. And he didn't really have anything, I didn't have anything bad to say about him. He was just a gambler. And basically gambled all my mom's money. So, all his money and all her money. So, he was just another guy that was kind of involved with restaurants. Somehow she was able to find another person to be with, to have those parties after 2 a.m. There goes mom money, back to her party life. So I left the husband, had to kind of be with her. I had no money. Left the ex's family that I built their entire business. I walked away. What would you do? Go back to the rapist? So I walked away from everything. I lost everything. So I walked away from it. I've lost everything so many times in life. It doesn't matter. So my experience of getting my own place, very short time. Now remember, I'm dating a gangster guy at that time. So he's kind of on the side. And I know for a fact that if I get involved with this guy, that my life is not going to be, it's not going to be my life. So getting involved with this guy, I'll give you an example. I was smoking cigarettes, and he was helping me quit. Now, during the time I was seeing this guy, I wasn't living with him. I was staying with my mom, and she actually had her own place. But her boyfriend was this guy that she eventually marries, and then he moves in. But he hasn't moved in yet. So I get to live with my mom for a very short time. This gangster guy, my boyfriend at the time, was partly there, but I was in her house. And, what was I trying to say? What was I saying?
That your mom was lying and she started partying again.
Oh, basically, I lived with my mom. So I knew that if I got involved with this guy, that it would be trouble. But you guys, what am I going to do? I walked away from the pizza place. I have no job. I am not a good person to work for someone. I'm just not a good person to work for someone. But I did. I mean, I went and worked. I did do a lot of side jobs. I worked at the mall. Everywhere I worked, they liked me. I mean, I worked at a store. I instantly became assistant manager. Like, I was very good at doing things. I mean, I was very intelligent. I was a very smart girl. Still am. So I'm a go-getter. I can work, I'm gonna work until I die. So that's basically what I like to do. I love to work. So basically what happens is I decide to give in because being in my mom's house, once again, this guy had a place where people would go to after 2 a.m. So they were partying again. And then she ended up starting to go to casinos with him. So it was just like, oh my God, every time I get a moment to live with her or like just a moment of just like being together. So I gave in. I gave in. I gave in and started dating a gangster. And a lot of, don't ask me why, because I'm not that girl now, and I would never let that my daughter do that. I would never let my friends do that. I would never let a girl do that. If you ever need my help, come to me. I would never let anybody do that again. I was desperate, and he really loved me. So basically, I gave in and started dating him. And a lot of things started happening. He did take care of me, but I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me and him. And my mom was really happy about me dating him, to be honest with you. Why? Because he really showed people that he loved me and me. I remember, you guys, I'm desperate for like a fatherly figure. I'm desperate for some love from a man. Desperate. So I fell for him. I fell for him. I thought this is real love. And it was a really sick relationship. Like, he was doing a lot of illegal things, but I was used to it. I just remember sitting down on the couch one time and like being like, what the heck? And like pulled out a gun. I was like, oh my God, I'm back to this world again. And like, and I just remember him telling me like, there's guns everywhere in the house, be careful. He instantly took me to a gun place and started teaching me how to use a gun. He told me that we had to be really careful places we went, that there was always people after him, that he had to be really careful. Like even when we would like walk across the street to the grocery store, he'd be strapped. Like there would, yeah. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Like let's say I'm walking with him and somebody was walking by us and that person happened to look at me wrong, that gun would be in that person's mouth. And that's the kind of guy he was. Now you guys, I'm gonna admit something to you. I was flattered by that. I thought, wow, this guy like loves me. He would do anything for me. So basically, I was a smoker, cigarette, and I remember him saying to me, you know, I really want you to quit. I don't smoke, and I haven't smoked since I was 26. If you hear my voice, that's just my voice. And I'm someone who talks a lot in my career, so I always have kind of a raspy voice. It's not from smoking. But anyway, so I told him that I quit smoking cigarettes. Well, the idiot I was, you know, when you're a smoker, you don't realize like people can smell the cigarette on you. So he said, look me in my eyes and tell me the truth. Did you smoke? And I said, no. And he was trying to teach me about loyalty and not lying to each other. And I've been lied to my whole life. So lying has been really easy back then, not now, back then. So I could lie. I lied to everything. How are you? Great. You need anything? No. So I just remember saying to him, I didn't. And you guys, that was like the first month dating this guy. And yeah, you're going to think I'm an idiot. I know you are, and you're going to judge me, but I don't care. You can judge me all you want. I'm just going to tell you the truth. So I went into the bathroom, I smoked a cigarette, came back out, pretended I didn't smoke, and within 15 seconds, I had a gun in my mouth. I was in a chokehold on the ground with a gun in my mouth. And I had to apologize and tell him I would never lie again. And I really thought I deserved it. Don't ask me why, I just did. And I stayed. And many, many, many years of abuse. Many years. Like I remember even my my DMV, one of my DMV driver's license, totally beat up. My whole face was beat up. I had put makeup on it, and I remember the lady even saying to me, like, "Are you okay?" Now, I want to tell you guys something. If back then there were the signals and, you know, like all the things that there is now, all the SOS, all the things that you could, like, if back then the DMV lady knew there was something wrong, and if I could have given her a signal then, my life would have been different. So I'm actually making it a really big part of my organization that I'm putting together, and that is to educate young girls and boys about grooming and how you're groomed to be trafficked, how you're groomed to get into gangs, how you're groomed to get into bad things. So there'll be more coming out of this. This is just my YouTube little podcast, but I am going to do more. So if you are someone that needs my help, if you're in an abusive relationship, if you're trying to get out and you need help, reach out to me. Okay? Reach out to me. Okay. So even at the DMV, when the lady, I remember the words she said to me. She said, you should get out. And then I just remember leaving. Another really bad time that happened with me and that abuse was there was a time where it was about a year into our relationship, and there was a lot of abuse. By the way, I covered it up for my mom, but not really. I mean, back then, for instance, let's say if I went from his house to my mom's house, he timed it. He had times to how long it took me to get to my mom's house, to the grocery store. So if I drove and I was like 3 minutes late, he'd call my mom. Where is she? Is she there yet? Because back then, there was no cell phones. There was. We had one, me and him together, those big ones. You remember those ginormous big ones? So there was no way, there was beepers. And that's, like I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, he's really controlling. And my mom would say, oh, no, he loves you. So my mom, I know she feels bad about it now, but she always excused the things he did because she wanted me to, my dog are snoring. She wanted me to be with a man. Like she didn't want me to be single. So she was like, okay, he's good. But she only saw, like, he sang to me. He was a good guy, I mean, in front of her. And he did love me in my eyes, because I thought it was love. So anyway, long story short, she just never believed me. So I stayed in that relationship for a good 3 years. Don't ask me why, but I did. So I leave that relationship, and that was a pretty bad relationship, and my mother tried to get me to stay in that relationship. So at that point, you guys, I decided it was time to run away from the mom. Give it up. So what I ended up doing for a really long time, I was with this guy during the time, I think. Did I do that? Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. I was actually dating this guy. And then I kind of left my mom, and I stayed with him away for a good year. And I tried not to see my mom. I tried to, like, just get away from everybody. But it got worse because I was in a full-on abuse relationship, and now I didn't know how to get out of it. And so from that, when we broke up, I got my own place, and I had my own place for a day. In the first day I moved into my own place, I was sleeping at night, and 3 men jumped into my balcony and were trying to get into my window. As I ran out the front door and down a hallway to my car, drove to my mom's house, and never went back to that place again. So I ended up, my mom and them all freaked out, so I ended up staying there. So I went back to my mom's house, stayed there for a little while, watched that marriage of hers completely fail, get destroyed. I had some really bad years, wasting time, just wasting time, doing bad things, going to casinos. Look, I ended up going to casinos with my own mother. Like, I ended up just going back again to the same old crap. Same old crap. There was a very short time my mom broke up with him, and then we were kind of together, and then I somehow ended up back into her whole lifestyle again. I did. I did everything I can to make it work with this lady, you guys. Everything. So I did a lot of illegal things with this guy, the gangster I dated. A lot. For almost 3.5 years together, we were just out of control, bad. And the ending of our relationship was really bad. But, you guys, he did something for me. And that is why I forgave him for everything that happened between us. At the very end of our relationship, he went to jail for me. And so at the very end, he was sorry. And he did something, and he really showed it to me. I can't get into the details of what happened, but finally, one of my abusers in my life, and my stepdad, he did apologize before he died, apologized to me and actually paid a price for me. So that ended. And Netta's brain and mindset is still corrupted, basically. I still don't even know what, like, normal life is. My mother is still with the same friends. I dated a gangster. I can't blame her for those things. Those are my choices. And then I started, I kind of lived with her after that. So we lived together for 2 years. And then I met my boyfriend, Harlan. And he was a really nice Jewish American guy. He was the very first American guy I dated. And that's a really fun story, how him and I met. He passed away, you guys. But Harlan Reisman was a very special man in my life. He was like my best friend. I have to say that he was my best friend, and he came, kind of start crying because he was my best friend, and he came into my life. But, he needed me, and he was like treated really badly by his own family. His mother died, and when his mom died, his father was having an affair, and his father moved in the girlfriend not even a few months after Harlan's mom died. He was like 15 years old. And the stepmom, because Harlan would get home like a few minutes late after school, the stepmom took away his keys in his own home. So when he would go home, he would have to sit behind the door every day until the stepmom would come home to open the door for him. So we connected, we really did. And he was such a nice guy, and he was so messed up. He was just, anyway, he came into my life and I had so much fun. So for 2 years, I had fun. He was nice, he wasn't abusive. He treated me with so much respect. He wouldn't even have sex. Are you allowed to say that on YouTube? He was not like that. He didn't want to take advantage of me. It was just like the first time a guy came into my life, and the first thing he said to me is, "We're not going to do it." And I was like, okay. So he's like, not until I get to know you better. But he was a club promoter, and I met him because I was going to have a birthday party, and I was very excited about just having a birthday party. And he was the club promoter, and what happened was I had gone to this club. It was in Calabasas, and it was like finally Netta, like I was single. I was living with my mom. It was fine. We were getting along because I was there very short. I worked a lot. How many minutes are we?
25.
Okay, so I'm going to finish with Harlan. So basically, what did I say before that?
That you went to clubbing.
Oh, yeah. So I was going to this club, and I liked this place. So I thought, hey, I'm going to have my birthday party. I think I was turning 26 or 27. It was like more of a like freedom party. Like, woohoo, I have a freedom, I have a life. So Harlan Reisman was the club promoter, and the guy that was my date at my birthday party, I had a lot of people show up. It was like over 150 people showed up. Harlan did such a great job for my birthday. But the guy that I took with me to my birthday party ended up like just being a real creep and like meeting other girls at the party. So anyway, I was at the end of the night, I didn't want to go to the hotel room with this guy. So I ended up, it was going to be like an after party at my hotel. And after I saw that this guy was already with other girls, I thought, oh no, I'm going home. So Harlan realized, because he was supposed to come to that party, and he realized that I went home on my birthday sad. So he, at 3 a.m, called my phone and said, hey, I'm outside your door, because he had brought me the invitations. So I went outside, and we sat in his car and talked for 8 hours. We did, and he was just, I cry because he's just such a good person, and he gave me 2 years of fun. So I really had a great time, and I basically lived with him, and I helped him because he was living with his dad. So I got him out of his dad's house. We got him his own place. He had money. He was okay. Like, he wasn't suffering. But I was part of getting him out of his dad's house in his 30s. And my mom and I furnished his house. And the thing about Harlan was I just wasn't in love with him. So, but I loved him. And so I broke up with him. And he was so sad, you guys. I was his whole life. But I had to be honest with him because I didn't want to hurt him. But after I left, a lot of bad things happened to him. He was taking Vicodins. I didn't know he was taking about 150 Vicodins a day. He covered it for me. He was a bodybuilder. He was doing GHB. He was doing a lot of bad things. So long story short, I broke up with him. And then later on, years later, when I was married to my husband now, he actually let me go to the hospital and say goodbye to him. So I'll end with that. At least I had one nice boyfriend. The other one I married. So I'm going to end with this, and then we're going to go to part 2.